July 12, 2016, Springfield Township Board of Trustees regular meeting. Mr. Burning,
Yes. Mr. Burning?
present.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
And Joe will not be here.
If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Today's the date for the board to conduct the annual public hearing on the tax budget in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.28 and 5705.30. I will call to order the public hearing on the 2017 tax budget. I would like to note that the proposed 2017 tax budget's been available in the administrative office of the township for public inspection and review in accordance to the Ohio Revised Code since July the 1st. Mr. Hinnenkamp, would you please provide the report and summary of the 2017 tax budget?
Be happy to do so, Mr. Burning. As you mentioned, this is the required public hearing as part of what's required by the Ohio Revised Code, something we do annually. This actually, when you adopt the budget, it's a little misnomer, and I say this every year. This actually is the start of our budget process, and this is generally referred to as the tax budget. What the tax budget is it shows kind of the history for the last 2 years, the actuals in terms of revenues and expenditures for the past 2 years, and then in the current year, it shows the actuals for the first half. So in other words, the first half of 2016, and then estimates for the second half of 2016, and then estimates for 2017 is how it's projected. What the budget is really designed to do is more of a function on anticipated revenues. That's where our focus is. The 2017 expenditures projections are generally based on what we maximally could expect to expend in those totals. As I mentioned, this is really kind of the start of our budget cycle, which ends in March. Will end in March of 2017 with the adoption of the permanent appropriations. So this really begins the process. Once the board adopts the budget, which you're required by law to do by July the 20th, we would forward that to the County Budget Commission. The County Budget Commission will then return to us what is basically our certified revenues. And they generally do that by the end of September of each year. Those revenues are then what we then know we have available to spend, and it really allowed you to do what most people think of as the budget process. So a little bit kind of a semantics, but a little bit of a misnomer when you're adopting your budget. This is more, I would say, of an accounting document than it is really a policy document. So the board's not establishing where you're going to spend your money and those types of things. You're just allocating where you expect funds to be available, what you anticipate some of those expenditures to be in a much more general kind of sense. Having said that, I know the board has copies of the actual proposed tax budget in front of you. There's really not a whole lot to point out, I guess, looking back over the last 2 or 3 years from a revenue standpoint, and specifically across all funds, but more specifically right now in the general fund. Really, the only thing that's really been much different is, of course, been the added revenues generated from the JEDS tax, which we're anticipating and estimating here to be just a little bit under $2 million in this budget. Other than that, pretty much the revenues are pretty flat or generally in keeping with what they've been over the last 2 or 3 years. From an expenditure side, really the only major differences where you see some fund balance differences where we anticipate some higher expenditures are, of course, again related to the JEDS, the Residential Incentive Grant Program, which is something that started a few years ago, and then this year the Neighborhood Enhancement Grant Program. So those things are corresponding expenditures programs that we talked about when we did the JEDs. A few other, we're seeing some increased costs as it relates to sort of highways, other fund, where we're spending a lot more. In particular, we've been funding SALT over the last couple of years out of the general fund as opposed to out of road district funds. So over the last couple of years, you've seen that tick up. And then we're, of course, doing a lot more infrastructure projects. And in particular, close to about $500,000 worth of infrastructure projects in the 16 budget. And those are, again, are direct result of the additional monies from the JEDs, where we're expending those, focusing on some infrastructure. Other than that, really across all of the other funds, you're seeing things to be, revenues within, a couple percent of where they've been over the last couple of years, and expenditures ticking up just a little bit. From an estimate standpoint, just built in some inflationary anticipated increases, but really nothing else of significance really to call out. A little bit on the TIF fund, because we're, again, related to capital improvements. We're expending some additional TIF funds this year, more than what we've done in the past, because we're able to now use those funds to make capital improvements. And so that's where you're seeing some difference there. But pretty much across all the other funds, very little difference from what we've been talking about. So that's really all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Do we know yet, or is it too early to know what salt's going to cost us?
We do know. In fact, we got some good news. We did receive the bid notice. We, again, for I think the third or fourth straight year, we decided to be with the ODOT statewide bid, and I think that's proven to be a good move for us. And Mike, I'm trying to remember, was it $55 or $50 a ton?
$50.91.
$50.91, which is down. I think last year we paid $68.
$70.41.
Oh,
Okay, so
that's great news.
it's good news there.
Yeah.
From that standpoint. And we stand, what's our total? The bins probably,
I'm sorry, how much are we ordering?
yeah, well, how many, I'm trying to think. We have about half right now, but
We're going to try to take advantage of the lower cost of materials, and we're planning to order or purchase 3,500 tons of salt.
Okay.
so, in a relatively mild winter in 16 certainly helped.
As you know, I'm not going to make any
No, just
declaration.
don't even talk about it, Gwen. Sitting here in July and you're talking about snow.
Good move.
Great job, good news.
It's good news.
Do you have any other questions or comments? Glenn?
That's all I have.
Okay, I'd like to ask now if there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the 2017 tax budget. No one?
Robert Collins, 853 Finney Trail. And Mike just mentioned that the budget was available in the office. How was that information given to everyone, that that budget was available?
We're required to advertise.
And where was it advertised? Because I was not aware of it.
Advertise in the community press, I believe, Kim? Yes.
But everyone
It's where
does
we
not-
do our legal where we do generally all of our legal notices.
But if you don't get the community press, then where do you go? Because I don't get it.
Isn't it?
Did we post it on our website? I believe we did, yeah. I believe it's on our website as well.
But if you are someone who does not have a computer, how do you become aware?
Well, we're required to advertise in the newspaper and we post it on our website.
Okay, in that newspaper, again, if you don't receive it, how are you to become aware of what's going on?
Go on the website.
Mr. Collins, all I can tell you is that's what the law requires, is that it be advertised in a publication of general circulation.
Do you have a contract with, what's the newspaper?
No.
We have an ongoing contract now.
So if I live on a street and I do not get that newspaper and I do not have a computer, then I'm at a loss as to what's going on in the township.
Well, you know now, you're here at the meeting, and
So let me talk about myself. What about some of the other people?
we're legally required to advertise it in the paper, and that's what we do.
Well, we announced it at this meeting, the last meeting when we set the time. We announced that they'd be available as well.
I don't recall that being announced, but
We did.
The board actually
At the
set,
last regular
Set the
meeting, a
time.
month ago, not last week.
well, as you know, I attend each meeting.
But we did
the board
announce.
set the public hearing date. They actually passed the motion to set the hearing for this evening, that night.
Okay.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay, given that there's no one else in the audience that wishes to address the board regarding the 2017 tax budget, I'll now seek a motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
meeting's closed.
The board will now consider the adoption of the 2017 tax budget a little later in the meeting under the resolution portion of the meeting when we consider resolution number 59-2016. Gwen, I think you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to express my gratitude to the community residents who have called me as well as spoken with our police department, expressing their gratitude for the services that our police and our first responders provide. And it's kind of nice to get that feedback in light of what's been happening in the past week. And I also think it's important that we look at and continue to support our police and our first responders and the citizens in Springfield Township as well. And just asking for peace, prayers, unity. And I would like to take a moment just of silence, just again, for all those communities across the United States, not just Springfield Township, that are dealing and coping with some of the concerns that we have occurring now, not only in the past week, but thus far since we've had our last meeting. So could we have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have meetings from the May 10th regular board meeting, the May 24th regular board work session, the June 14th regular board meeting, and the June 29th regular board meeting. I'm sorry, the regular work session. If there's no corrections or revisions to the meeting minutes, I entertain a motion for approval as written.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, just note, there's also a public hearing on May 25th. I'm not sure you mentioned that one. Minutes for the public hearing that we had on the 25th.
I did not.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, Mr. Burning, may we please have the financial report?
Yes, for the month ending June 30th, 2016, the township's expenditures were $2,092,873.08, and the receipts were $3,372,734.50. That gave us a cash balance ending of $18,458,920. That includes obligations for expenditures, payroll, regular operating costs, ongoing capital improvement projects, and investments. What I request is a motion to approve the receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures, updated and current revenues and reports for the period ending June 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And I just want everyone in the audience to know that the financial reports are available for viewing at the administrative offices weekdays during regular business hours and on our website anytime. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Hennenkamp, would you please give us your report on departmental action and discussion items?
Can I ask a question, one question in reference to the financial report?
Yes, sir.
Does that report in detail give the expenditure, what it was used for?
On the website?
On the
Yes,
Okay, it does give us the total report.
yes, it does. The only thing I believe that's consolidated is payroll. Yeah, the only thing consolidated that's not detailed is payroll.
Okay. Is my name on there?
I don't know your name, but I could sure check later if you want me to.
Mr. Hankins?
Thanks.
Yes, just one action tonight, Mr. Burning, and that is to set the rental rates for the Grove Event Center and Senior Center for 2017. Actually, if you look at the rates are generally being kept the same. There's just 3 policy changes that Tom is recommending. They have to do with, 2 of them have to do with rates involving the Senior and Arts Center. And it's basically, I know you have a copy of each one of these things. One has to do with requiring users on the breakdown of tables and chairs. And the other is, has to do with what the price would be if you call to add time to your rental agreement in less than 48 hours, that rental rate is then doubled. But the issue that we're running into there is people are adding to it, and it requires us to bring somebody in to account for that. So it's basically just not being able to, if we have to do that, we have to compensate. The employee has to come in if it's not scheduled in less than 48 hours. And then the third piece, or the third request of the change just has to do with pricing on beverage. So pretty small changes. I think the major pricing for the halls itself, no changes recommended for 17. So just looking for a motion from the board to adopt and set those rental rates for 2017.
And so anyone that does, that meets with the rental department and discusses opportunities, they will explain and go through all of these so that there are no surprises.
It's all in the agreements. Yep.
So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Just a couple of discussion items. I know we've done this, I think, over the past few years. We always receive something asking the board to declare the week of August the 7th through the 13th, 2016 as National Health Center Week. And this is a request that we received from the community health centers in our area, and I know the board is generally signed a proclamation upon that request. So again, this is basically centers that are generally located in areas that are where these areas are generally underserved for medical uses, and that's where the purpose of these centers are. I don't believe we have one in the township, but there is one in Mount Healthy.
There's one in Mount Healthy. It's for those who are underserved, and it allows easy access. So they're located in different parts of the county so that an individual can get to them as quickly as possible in their neighborhood or as near geographically to their neighborhood. So this is, I think it's a great proclamation.
No action needed, just mentioning that you'll see that proclamation come by. And then also wanted to mention that we did receive notice from Duke Energy, and Duke will be performing inspections on gas metering equipment and piping areas located inside buildings throughout the township. We don't have any specific areas. This is something that's required by the U.S. Department of Transportation, and this will actually be performed by a company that's a contractor of Duke called Southern Cross, Inc., and all of their employees should have a uniform on, clearly identifying them as a Southern Cross, Inc. employee, as well as a picture ID, so that this will be taking place sometime in the month of August.
And what did you say the purpose of that is?
It's inspection for gas metering equipment and piping.
Do they randomly do it?
Don't know. This is as much as I have. It's just that they'll do it. I think we've received this notice every year for the last 3 or 4 years. It's something that they have to do. I don't know if it's every property, it's certain types of property. But there is more, for more information, there is a website that you can go to find
So
out.
do they
more.
have to register with us before they come into our community?
Public utility.
I could see that could be a little uncomfortable for some people.
And the only other thing I have is the personnel update. This month, in the police department did accept the resignation of Alicia Hubble as a dispatcher. Her effective date was June 15th, and we did hire Zach Davis as a part-time dispatcher, effective date of June 21st, and did accept the resignation of summer help, Joseph Hennenkamp, seasonal labor, effective date of the 24th of June, and did hire Lauren Bass, seasonal labor, on June the 17th. The only other thing that I've got is just to bring the board up to date on something that Kim and I have been working on. Kim Cox, our finance director, a few months back, I can't remember the exact time, we did engage the firm OpenGov, and this is something that we're looking at primarily for internal use as to how we're going to be able to use some of the tools available in the electronic platform that they have. This will also lead, I think eventually we'll want to have an advanced sort of version of what we do on our finance report. We are working on that. Right now, we're hoping that, by the end of the year, we're also going to time this with a revamp of our website. So as we go in with our 2017 budget, we're hoping to have all of this information available that will not only have 2017's information on there, but we'll be able to go back. I don't think probably 4 years, right, Kim? We weren't able to, UAN was missing a module, so we couldn't get back. So we'll be able to go back to 13. What we want to do is basically have apples to apples comparison. And we're in the process of sort of coding all of those things. So as this thing reports out where somebody says, how much did you spend on X, it'll be comparable and be comparing the right things and the right funds from each year. So it's not a complicated process. It's just a very labor-intensive process to get that coding correct. So we're making progress on it. And as I said, it's going to, we're starting to see and become familiar with what it more from an internal day-to-day use. But as I said, by the end of the year, we should have that up. And hopefully that'll coincide, as I said, with the update to our website.
And we worked out and corrected the errors that they had before where they had us confused with another Springfield Township.
That really didn't have anything to do with OpenGov.
Oh,
That was
okay.
something that was Josh Mandel's office, the posting of that
okay.
information. This is something totally different. This is what the township will own and what we'll have available on our
I
own
think
website.
that's much more transparent.
Yeah, we've talked to the treasurer's office about that, and I'm assuming they corrected that. But, once the information is on our website, it's going to be pretty easy to have that same information go. They didn't want us to send interim things up now while we were working on it. We're going to do it all at one time to
Okay, that
sort
makes
of avoid
sense.
confusion and avoid a lot of the mistakes. But, it's just a matter of, like I said, our funds, when you look at UAN, the way a lot of these funds don't get reported into the same way that, a resident who wants to say, how much are you spending on X? It's sort of difficult to find that. If you just get a printout on UAN, you really have to dig through that information. So this will be much more user-friendly.
Well, that's what we want to continue doing and make it much more transparent, which we've always been transparent and had.
Well, it's that, but I think the bigger part of it is going back to those years to make sure that you're comparing them. If you want to look at what, how do we do in 13 compared to 14, compared to 15, compared to 16, you've got to be comparing the same amount, the same funds, the same codes, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Kim, I'll turn things over to you and ask you to give us an update on community events and programs.
Thank you. Arts Connect has been doing our summer concert series. We've had 2, and there's 2 left. The next one is next Thursday on July the 21st, and we're bringing the band Second Wind, which is an R&B band. We're also using that time to do our ball drop. It's our big fundraiser that we do for our community concerts that the fire department helps us out with. On August the 4th is our final concert, and that's with the Cincinnati Civic Orchestra. That will be indoors inside the Grove Banquet Hall. And then we'll be moving straight into our dinner theaters. We've got dinner theaters in August, September, and October, starting with Jackie Robinson on August the 12th.
our last concert, we had a pretty good turnout in spite of the weather predictions. You know, I was impressed.
It's been kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Mark, that's, I know the board has copies of the departmental activity reports, but other than that, if there's a question, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hennenkamp. We have 5 resolutions onto the agenda before the board tonight. The first one is resolution number 58-2016, authorizing the trade-in of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use motor vehicles, road machinery, equipment, or tools in the service department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
We have resolution number 59-2016, adopting the 2017 tax budget. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
We have resolution number 60-2016, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate the nuisances. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
We also have resolution number 61-2016, establishing assessment for abatement of nuisance and certifying same to the Hamilton County Auditor. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
And resolution number 62-2016, declaring a dangerous property condition at 1264 Urett Court. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Aren't we supposed to have, yeah, go ahead.
What I would say at this time, since the board has declared the property a dangerous property, that the board set a public hearing to allow all lien holders of record to present to the board why the property should not continue to be declared dangerous and eventually raised by the township. I would ask that the board schedule that hearing for our next regular scheduled meeting on August 9th at 4:45 p.m. To have that prior to the actual regular board meeting at 5:30. I'm not sure what's going on with this microphone, so I apologize.
4:45?
Yes, please.
I think you have Heinfolds on. Tom probably said it because he was sit so far back from it, so
I guess. Must be it.
he tuned it super sensitive.
That time works okay for me.
Okay. So I would ask the board to entertain a motion to set that public hearing for the dangerous property condition at 4:45 on August 9th.
Work for you?
Yeah. So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Is there any old business before the board tonight?
I have none.
I have none. Is there any new business?
I have just a quick update. I've had several meetings with the Sharonville Convention Center CEO, Jim Down, and it looks like the construction of the hotel that is underway is on schedule. It looks good, and we have a nice relationship with not only the Sharonville Convention Center, but the Blue Ash one as well. So the hotel is projected to have 5 floors. So any of you all that, let's say you have a family reunion and you're looking for a place for your family to hold their reunion or et cetera, it should be completed by I think March of next year. And it's looking really, really good. It's going to kind of connect with the convention center as it is now. So when you drive down Chester Road, when you get a chance, just look at it. There's been a lot of activity, more activity from the county residents because, you know, it's on the northern side of the county. And a lot of people are not interested, nor can they get downtown or want to have their meetings downtown. So they're beginning to use that Sharonville Convention Center much more often, much more frequently. So that's just an update on what's going on there. So it's looking good. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland. Okay, it's now citizen participation. Is there anyone in the audience here tonight that would like to address the board? If so, I would ask you to please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Reverend Bryce, and I'm with the Lexington Heights Civic Association. Most of you guys know me. I have taken the place of Chester Banks, and the Civic Association has some interesting things that they'd like to bring to you for your attention. If you are part of the association, would you please stand? These that you see before you, and there are others that participated in a meeting. We issued a call out to the community, and the call was successful. There were people that came and expressed several interests about things that were taking place in the community. The issues were so large that we narrowed it down to the more serious complaints. And those complaints came out to be involving people in the neighborhood shooting guns after dark in a specific area, and there were some issues about some properties that were supposedly Section 8 tenants or properties that were not up to code or that the people felt were bringing down the neighborhood. So those issues were placed in a petition, and today I've got this petition here at the request of the body with other signatures to put before this council so that you guys can take it and to do what we feel needs to be done to bring this area up to par. I know that the gun issue is a police issue. I intend within the very near future to contact the chief and to sit down and to see if he and I can come up with something. But the other issue involving the properties, I realize that that falls under the jurisdiction of somebody on the board. So that we all know what we are expecting out of each other, I'd like to present this petition to you guys so that we can work together to bring these issues up to par. I don't know who gets it, but I'm going to start here, and anybody that wants to read it that's on the board can pass it on down. Okay? And of course, anybody that needs to get in touch with me, my number is 513-328-9785. And it's okay to give me a call anytime. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a legal pad. It's not all full of notes for me to talk. Thank you, sir. My name is Steve Stuhlreier. I live at 8573 Brent Drive. Been a resident of Springfield Township since 2005. Grew up in Green Hills. Moved there in 1972. I own a business here in the township called Restoring Hope Counseling and Coaching. It's located behind Brentwood Printing and Uncle Bill's Garden Center off Wynn Road. So in my company, we provide counseling and educational services for people with mental illness, suicide, depression, anxiety, trauma recovery, and addictions. And in regards to the addiction issue is why I'm here this evening. So because I grew up in Green Hills, I'm really committed to this area. I love this area. So I have a concern that I think we probably all have, and that's in in regards to the issue regarding the opiate addiction. So I had the privilege of meeting with Chief Browder a few months ago. He gave me some time, met with Gwen several weeks ago, months ago. Gwen and I sit on a board together at the Y, so we've gotten to know each other. So in those meetings, one of the things I became aware of was that there's a task force in the township. Don't know much about the task force other than it's there, and one of the things that it is attempting to address is the opiate addiction issue. Please correct me if I misrepresent any of that. Now, the task force is a good thing, but it sits at a very high level with a lot of stakeholders, trying to address this issue. One of the concerns I have, of course, with the opiate addiction is that those task forces are great, but the community does not really get involved as much, because either we're not aware that the task force is there, or that the need's there, or there could be other reasons as well. So when I met with Chief Browder, shortly after I met with him, I met with Chief Fertelman of Green Hills and suggested to Chief Fertelman, because I'm a Green Hills grad, and by the way, I think I know your husband, right? Because I'm a Green Hills grad, and my parents lived there until a couple years ago when my father passed away. My mom moved to assisted living. I expressed a desire to maybe hold a community forum in Green Hills regarding how the community can respond to the opiate addiction. So Chief Fertelman bought into that. He actually led the drive on that. It was a huge turnout in Green Hills at the Village Troubadour, a standing room only. On the panel was myself, Chief Fertelman, Chief Tom Sinan from Newtown, Sheriff Jim Neal, the Hamilton County Sheriff, undercover narcotics officer, and the Green Hills narcotics investigator. Standing room only, went on for 90 minutes, lots of questions, a lot of energy in the room, and afterwards for about another hour, a lot of Q&A. So one of the things I learned from Chief Browder and Chief Fertelman, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I misrepresent you, is that about 90% of the calls that the law enforcement respond to, mental health issues and addiction issues are involved with that as influence. Is that correct? And was that roughly about 90%? So this is a big, big deal. We work with a lot of people in recovery, and many people follow the process to recovery. One of the things I heard from law enforcement, from Sheriff Neal and Chief Fertelman and Chief Sinan, was that law enforcement does, and they all said this separately, so I think it's something they probably talk about, but the police will not be able to arrest enough people to get us out of this problem. So Chief Sinan and I had dinner before the panel, and he very strongly suggested that what was needed in the communities was a grassroots effort to start addressing this issue, to come alongside the police, come alongside the governing bodies, and address this issue. So he spoke pretty directly to me about that. As a small business owner, would I be involved with that? And he spoke very directly to the community as well. I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into, but I tend to do this. I committed to Chief Sinan that my company and I would take the lead on establishing a grassroots effort to address the opiate issue. Now, with the task force going on, which is a great thing, by the way, my company and I are interested in somehow leading this process, not just in Springfield Township. It's where I live, is where I do business, so I want the good communities where my kids are in the Finneytown School District. But also countywide, Tom Sinan, if you don't know, is also one of the leaders of the Hamilton County Heroin Task Force as well. So he and I are trying to meet up sometime early in August for lunch to talk about this in more depth. So one of the things, I'm not one to just kind of bring a problem. I want to try to bring a possible solution. So one of the things I would ask from you all for some feedback, and I'm, again, willing to take some lead on this, is my company, Restoring Hope, and I would like to partner with the township in some form or fashion, whatever that looks like, to begin to address this issue. Now, because the community forum in Green Hills was so successful, and they're talking about wanting to have a second one, that I would like to offer to lead that, or work in partnership with the trustees and the police department, the fire department, the EMTs, anybody else who's willing to come alongside, and say, let's do this. In my opinion, it would be more effective if the township could announce it. You have a lot more credibility than my company that's been in the township for 6 months. Okay. So we would like to partner with you if the township would be willing to partner with us. I'm happy to help put it together. I'm happy to lead it and work with the appropriate stakeholders in the community to make that happen. In addition to that, my company and myself and anybody else that would want to be involved, I would like for small businesses in the community and interested residents to meet with me at some point as we move forward to try to stand up against this issue. The only way that this issue gets resolved is if the community gets educated about it and if we come together to try to address this issue. One of the things we know is that heroin is not the only thing that's being abused. We got fentanyl coming in, which makes the heroin use even worse. Something called crocodile is supposed to be coming, that's even worse. Allegedly, if it ever gets better, the addiction researchers indicate that this will get worse before it gets better, if it ever gets better. And this area of the country is being hit very strongly with the opioid issue. So I just want to offer that to you all. Would like to be part of it. Would like to, if there's any response from anybody, any feedback at this point, I'd like to hear it.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with crocodile. Can you
Yes.
define that a little more, please?
Yeah, crocodile they call it crocodile because people inject it, and then the injection site, the area where they inject turns green and becomes scaly. So it looks like a crocodile.
Oh.
My understanding is it's a mixture of codeine, heroin, gasoline, and paint thinner.
Wow.
It originated in Russia, and they've seen some in Lima, Ohio, and Dayton, Ohio, from my understanding. Things tend to come down the I-75 corridor, so guess who's south of Dayton? Cincinnati, and the township's not far off of I-75. You acknowledging that these things are true, Chief?
They are true. The whole crocodile thing was, I think, originated from the whole methamphetamine thing and the chemicals that mix together. How someone could do that and survive one time is beyond me from the mixture of what we know crocodile to be. But again, with the fentanyl, we're actually seeing a little more powder cocaine back on the streets now because of the fear of the heroin being mixed with the fentanyl. So certainly, either way, a deadly combination.
So communities have pushed this back, by the way, in the past, in other places in the country, when communities have stood up. And Tom Simon said to the group in Green Hills over and over again, we can use MAD as the example, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. He said to them, if the police or the trustees go to the legislatures, or the people that fund these things, they tend to turn a deaf ear, but you get a room full of pissed off moms who've lost their kids. It's a different story. And so we kind of want to try to get, what my desire is to be just the community people to come and stand up with you all to talk to you about what they experience, so you're educated about it. It goes to the people that could provide money and funding for more police or whatever the need be for treatment, for prevention. All these things are possible. Other communities have done it and done it successfully. There's no reason why the township couldn't either, and I'm willing to be part of that solution.
Steve, Chief and I had discussed, the email that you'd sent us and are very interested in our last community police task force meeting. There was an interest in learning more about the opiate problem, not only I guess basically seeing how that impacts our township as a whole, but also the surrounding communities. And I'm impressed with the short-term therapy approaches that your company is using. So we really are looking at perhaps having you at our next meeting in the fall. Okay. Because having a meeting in the summer, people are not that available. They're on vacations and all that stuff. And I think it's very, very critical that we get that information out as a learning opportunity to the residents in our community.
Right.
So we definitely know that we wanted to have you at the next meeting that we have.
Okay, well,
And then there's a business association. Kim, can you tell him about that?
They're
'Cause he's a
actually
business
speaking
person.
at the next meeting. They're the last Wednesday of the month in your office.
Yes. Right.
So his office is right in the township, which is good.
Right.
I think everyone knows somebody who has been affected by it, and I think anything we can do to try to I know it's a long process to get past it, but anything we can do to help, we would certainly be interested in doing.
Okay. So what I would say, maybe as I finish here, is I think a really important thing is to get face-to-face with the residents of the community. And the format of the community forum that we had in Green Hills, you're welcome to talk to Chief Fertelman about that to hear more about how that was set up. It was a fantastic event. There's probably 80 people in a room that sat 50. And if we could have had a bigger room, more people would have come. So what I would think an important step would be is to have the community where we perhaps go to places in the community where the people are at versus inviting them to come here. And have a forum that way, just open forum, some education going out, but also we probably had an hour's worth of questions. And people just lost not knowing where treatment was. Why can't the police just get this taken care of? And the law enforcement people responded to that very well. And it was very productive. It helped to have Sheriff Jim Neal there as well, because you see his name on the billboard. He's not much nicer than his face looks on the billboard. But it was great to have everybody respond and the community respond very positively to him.
The other thing that we did tonight, we again we had a resolution regarding neighborhood health centers. And the one in Mount Healthy would be a good contact because that's near. And as I said, we're all surrounded and we interact with each other, and I think that's important. So Dolores Lindsay is the contact person there.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to address the board? If there's no other business before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
So move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting
Meeting's
adjourned.
adjourned.